Culture Club.
Money FM 89.3. Good evening. It's the Evening Runway. I'm Elliott Danker. It is now time for a Culture Club Extra. In the studio with me is my guest host today, Jon Chua, who is the founder and managing director for Zendyll Music Agency. Jon, welcome. And I suppose in a way, welcome back to Singapore because you're in town for a press conference today. You rushed here after.
Yes. So I live in both cities now. I live in Kuala Lumpur and I live in Singapore as well.
Yeah.
My wife and I recently had a baby, so we decided to live in two cities. So kind of gotten used to it, actually.
Yeah. I want to get your perspective on that in just a bit. But for you, a lot of people would know you as part of the music group Sam Willows. And of course, you transited. We had a conversation, I think, a couple of years back. That transition from a music maker to a music business owner.
Yes.
Yet you're still kind of a music maker as a producer. How do you find this balance? What's that transition like?
The truth is, there is no balance. I think it's about doing what feels right and what's necessary at what moments. You know, I think there are days where I feel more creative, and there are days that I have to be able to crunch the numbers.
Right.
And I think I had to learn how to crunch numbers as well.
Wow.
I think it wasn't something that came naturally to me, but you learn over time.
Yeah.
I think it's always a growing process.
Yeah, it's about that adaptability as well. What is the most challenging aspect of running Zendyll, of being in this music making industry or music business industry? We kind of touched a little bit off air about generative AI and the challenges it's bringing.
Yes. I think the music industry moves very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And there aren't a lot of, very loosely put, there aren't a lot of rules.
Okay.
So you have to be quick to adapt.
Right.
And, once you kind of learn something and it becomes so-called industry standard, something else comes along to change everything. I think the most important transition that you could see was the way that music was being consumed. You went from vinyls, and then you had cassettes, and then CDs, and then now with streaming. The movement becomes very, very quick, and you got to learn everything all over again.
Yeah.
One thing I really respect about people who've worked in music for very, very long is their ability to adapt to the new trends or the new product offerings in the market.
But they tend to have a little bit more runway when it comes to adapting. Trends don't feel like trends anymore because things change so quickly now.
Yep.
I mean, we were speaking off air. My wife is in digital marketing, and she tells me, hey, this latest song came out because of TikTok.
Yep.
So it's trending now, and all the radio stations are playing it. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the way that people consume content.
Right.
And there will always be more and more platforms. There will always be more and more different ways for people to consume, digital content. I think that's become something that's very prominent now, that holds a lot of value as well.
Yeah.
We talk about data and we talk about online content.
Yeah.
So I think with music, it's just one aspect of it. Like back then you would consume music in the form of music videos from MTV, for example.
I grew up with that,
A lot of us grew up with that, but now, you might not even be able to know that, this particular song has this music video. That connection is not really there. And then you go back to the creators themselves and they ask the question, or the labels will ask the question, is it even necessary to create a music video and spend all this money and all this effort to build that level of creativity, to tell the story of that song, when I could possibly get more returns from posting a dance video on TikTok, for example. And I think that balance between art and commerce is increasingly more tensed now, where obviously for the sake of the art, you want to be able to present everything in its purest form or in its finest form, whereas sometimes the commerce might not necessarily make sense in today's age. So that struggle is always present.
And speed is so important these days. I remember back in the late 2008s, 2009s, I was doing music for a pop radio station, and we'd always get a preview via what they call lyrics videos on YouTube before the music videos come out. Now, all of that doesn't seem relevant anymore. You just got to get that hook.
So, funny story, when it comes to lyric videos back in the past, I remember we actually had to type the lyrics and manually time the lyrics in such a way. Whereas now with generative AI technology, you got text-to-speech, you got captions creation, and literally these text creation happens in 2 to 3 minutes, less than that, So it's definitely changed, but I'm very appreciative of the process of how we went from there to what it is today. And I also have an appreciation of the technological advances that is what it is today, you know, and it makes life a lot easier. Yeah. So you are able to move faster given the tools that are given to you.
Yeah, I've always thought of you as more than just a musician, because you got quite open in the conversations that we've had to all these technological advancements. How does that give you, as in Zendyll Music, the edge in this highly competitive industry?
Yeah. I think with Zendyll is we're not afraid to be different. Yeah. You know, and we're not afraid to work with anybody.
You've got a lot of partnerships.
Yes, we have a lot of partnerships. You know, we are very willing to collaborate. We're very willing to work with all sorts of different companies or collectives. You know, whether you might not necessarily think it's related. Like we recently did a campaign for Singapore Kindness Movement. Okay. You know, and did the music video. We produced the music. You know, we planned everything. You know, and we wanted to give them our best. You know, because I remember the Singapore Kindness Movement very fondly growing up. You Courtesy Lion and everything. Yeah. And I mean, back then, you know, it was a certain perspective of it. Right. And, you know, to be able to help them create their vision, you know, I think with Zendyll, that's what we do. Yeah. So we work with everything from non-profit foundations all the way up to luxury brands, you know, all the way to having our own festivals. You know, the work is very diverse, but I think that's the thing that keeps us, I guess, excited and informed and willing to be able to do more. Yeah.
A good repertoire, as they say in music.
For sure.
So you're a dad now.
Yes.
And how does parenthood change things? You mentioned at the start of this conversation that you recently became a dad, and you and your wife Amanda decided to move to KL, but you toggle between two cities.
Yes. So we decided to shuttle and live in two cities. Is what I actually read this. I read this article about bi-city living. So it's not very common in, I guess, South. It's not uncommon in Singapore because we're so small, a country, a state, and a city in itself. Yeah. But you know, bi-city living is common in, for example, if you work in New York City and then you live in, I don't know, the Hamptons or something like that. Sure. You know, and you're willing to do that anywhere from 1.5 hours to 8-hour commute, you know, weekly, you know, and I mean, I saw a trend on TikTok as well, you know, of people posting videos of their bi-city living, you know, and it kind of inspired my wife and I, because Amanda's from KL itself, you know, and I've been traveling back and forth for the last 5 to 6 years. So the city also feels like a second home to me. So we were like, instead of having a first and second home, why not we have two first homes? Yeah. You know, and it kind of refreshes us a lot, you know. The traveling and the commute can be a little bit tiring, but I wouldn't say it is something that I would not want to do.
Just a bit of planning, time management, you figure it out. You come to Singapore, fast pace, go there, slow down a little bit.
And I mean, I have the luxury because I opened an office in Malaysia as well. Yeah. You know, so my wife also does work in Malaysia. Okay. So, you know, having that ability to pick the kind of work and plan our schedules ahead of time, you know, and having that balance, you know, I think we're very fortunate in that sense. You know, I mean, I count my blessings to be able to do that. Yeah. You know, and I think it's also almost the future of work as well, because I do have clients who work in MNCs and they have that arrangement. Yeah. You know, they spend Fridays to Mondays in Kuala Lumpur and Tuesdays to Thursdays in Singapore. Yeah. You know, because they run regional offices, you know, so they're handling two different teams. Yeah. And there's a lot to learn. You know, I think I learned a lot in KL, you know, and I do learn a lot here in Singapore as well. And I realized it's very same but different.
Yeah. That's that term, right? I mean, I tried to get you and Amanda as guest hosts, and through a bit of conversation realized how challenging that was going to be. And then I realized, wait, so you are in somewhat not a fixed timetable. She is an artist herself, same thing. You got a kid as well. How do you manage the dynamics?
For one, we try not to work Sundays. I think Sundays we've decided that it's family day. Okay. You know, that the opportunity cost, we're willing to let things go. All right. You know, that we don't need to do everything. We don't have to be at everything. We don't have to necessarily say yes to everything. And that includes social events. Sure. You know, so we try to keep it for family. And then I think, you know, we try to spend as much time as possible with our son. You know, I mean, he's so young. He's only 4 months old. And Amanda just got back to work in the last month. Yeah. And I think for her, she's a champion. I think after becoming a parent, you realize that, as a husband, your life is a little bit difficult, but for the mother, it's 10 times worse.
Of course, everything, all foundations start from there, right? For the kid, for even as husbands, we have to be grateful to our wives for giving us that foundation. Just a quick one. Do you think? You talked about making that choice to not turn up for events and stuff like that. Do you think it's also because you live in two cities that you have taken back that choice? Because in Singapore it's kind of like if I don't post on social media, oh no, I miss out on my audience, that sort of thing.
I think going beyond social media, I love my friends, I do love my friends, but sometimes you just want to be able to say no and not have to feel bad about it. And I think that's an advantage in living in two cities. Like for example, if there are family events in KL that I want to avoid, but oh no, I'm going to be in Singapore.
And were you really in Singapore?
Then I will make sure that I'm in Singapore. Okay. Maybe I'm here right now because I don't want to be there. You never know.
Well, I learned something, a new tactic to try. I've been speaking with Jon Chua, founder and managing director for Zendyll Music Agency. We'll continue to get to know Jon a little bit later on.